Okay guys, let's size a ring. This one's at an 8.5 and it needs to go to a 7.5. Now this is an engagement ring that I sold a customer about a month ago, and we didn't quite nail the size, so I have to size it down one size so it fits perfectly for her. Now I measured out exactly enough to go down that size, so I cut the piece out with my saw and then use a small file. Just make sure the cuts are nice and flat, so when I bring the sides of this ring together, I'll have a nice and tight seam so I can solder it correctly. When I pull these sides together, I have to overlap because the gold has a little bit of spring to it. So I overlap it and keep feeling to make sure it's lined up properly. The last thing I want is something to be off when I solder. And this ring had some emeralds in it, so I'm using this stuff called Cool Jewel, and it's this paste that I put over the gems so they do not get too hot. And it's super important to do this, especially with emeralds, opals, and other stones that can't take any heat. So I am getting my solder to flow, and the solder will draw towards the heat, so towards the flame. And on this one, my solder kind of fell off to the edge, so I was pulling it through to the other side, which is why I was heating it from the side like that. And here I'm just rounding out the ring once I get it soldered, just a preliminary rounding to make sure everything's nice and cylindrical. And then I go in and I clean up my little excess solder. I'm going progressively up in grit, so it goes from like 180 grit to 1500 using 3 steps. And here I have it right to a 7.5 like I wanted, so I'm doing the final sanding. I'm doing the sides, and on the sides I go from 400, 600 to 1500. Once I have that done, it's time to polish. So I go over to my polisher, I hit the inside of the ring, and then the sides, and then the top. And that's always the process: inside, sides, top. And then I go to my buffing wheel for my final polish, get all the nicks and dings and scratches out, and then I put it in my ultrasonic cleaner. And you have to be careful again with these gems. You don't want emeralds, opals, things like that to go into ultrasonic cleaner. And this one, for the purpose of the video, I just put it in there quickly, took it out, and then I scrubbed it with a toothbrush actually. And here's how it turned out: perfectly sized to a 7.5, and everything turned out great. Ring sizing is one of the first things you learn as a bench jeweler, but to get proficient at it, it takes a lot of practice.